so far this year in their late game. Let's take a safe first pick Rumble here, it looks like, and try to respond to what Hanwha Life's plan is going to be. I think this is a really common thing you see in Game 2s when teams do pick red side, because it's rare. You're like, okay, what's your plan? I'll pick a Rumble that's safe, and then we can respond to what you take in first rotation here in the rest of our draft. Because Rumble pairs with almost anything so well right now in this meta.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if we have Udyr popping his head out. We had Udyr banned away, we had Forest banned away as well as Rumble in game number 1. So, could be a response on the side of Hanwha Life. They're hovering the Varus here for Deft.
You take red side here and you don't have insta-locks. That's always one of my biggest concerns. Like, that's one of the big warning signs for me, is when you see these like hovers here and you don't see the full lock-in. I'm like, you picked red side. I hope you have a plan. They will actually extremely high prio Gwen into this game and can be a very strong, even oppressive champion on the top side of the map. So blind into Keen. It's a good bet here.
I don't think blind picking into Keen is ever a good bet, to be honest.
I mean, if you're going to blind pick, I think Gwen's one of the best ones you could do, is what I'm trying to say.
I get it, yeah. I get that. It's just the way that Keen is playing nowadays, it's yeah. But no, I do get your point. Set this time is going to come out pretty early on. It was totally ignored in game number 1.
Which is
we're big
rare.
fans of Set nowadays.
You and me especially, big Set fans.
Everybody's getting on the hype train.
This draft is looking practically unstoppable for Afreeca right now. You have 2 extremely strong flex picks. Set can now be played support a lot easier because Hex Flash is re-enabled, but even still, like, one of Fly's most successful champions this season. And sure, Thresh comes through here, it's really strong with the Varus, makes Varus a lot safer, can poke more aggressively because he can Lantern out.
Yeah.
You have Gwen, who can eat up a lot of that damage on the front line when she does top her mist down. And it's a strong pick into Rumble, as we've mentioned many times before, but hard to pull off what Hanwha Life's comp is, because Gwen will have to do well against Keen in order to get that split push power. They'll remove the Jace, which is one of the strong picks you can use to deny CS against the Gwen, even poke her away from minion goal, or rather experience. It's one thing that you definitely don't want to face up against, so like that ban.
Yeah, banning Jace against Keen, always a safe bet. As Azir also going to be taken off the board here. They don't want to allow Chovy to play that one, it seems.
Yeah. I do like it because it's going to be a high impact champion where you will often win lane against a Set because of the range, and Set is probably going mid. Plus, it goes back to the scaling argument I was talking about before, where you give Chovy a champion that scales well into the late game, he's always going to hit those thresholds, he's always going to hit those marks. Like, last game was one of those rare games where he hit the marks a little bit slow on the rise because the game was so poor, unfortunately, for Hanwha Life Esports, but even banning Victor here, I think, is not out of the question right now for Afreeca, because you just don't want to give Chovy any power towards the later start of the game. They'll take the Udyr away that you were talking about before, but Hecarim is very strong right now, and Arthur seems very happy to lock that in.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't Hecarim's fault that the early game of Game 1 went the way it did. Just kind of a Xinjiao and Dread thing that happened. I think the Hecarim can handle the early game Rumble a lot better, so we'll see how this one does go. I like the Nocturne ban as well. The Nocturne Rumble pretty common nowadays. The Nocturne pretty high up there on the tier list. Rakan is going to be taken here again by Lehens. Rakan is not necessarily the top tier of the support tier list right now, but Lehens going to play it 2 games in a row.
Yeah, and in fact, it's his first time playing it this season in this series, so very much an outlier here. So we'll see Kennen. I was wondering if Kennen was going to make a little bit of a comeback in this meta, and ends up being pretty nice into Gwen, constantly stun her, make it very difficult for her to be aggressive up there and look for those trades. Very difficult to hit as well because he's pretty mobile. As once again, you're going to see Chovy put on the rise here, so the idea was good in the last game, and this time you have the ability to actually port a Gwen right up into the front line, which is very, very frustrating to deal with. If you don't fall behind early, Hanwha Life Esports draft here is once again very strong. It's going to be the rise into Set in the mid lane. So a lot of onus here on Dread, once again, to actually help keep some of those lanes stable, but like, Keen is going to be fine against Gwen on this Kennen matchup. Bottom side of the map, you know, it's Varus versus Ezreal, so that's where things can get a little bit iffy. You know, lethality Varus, very, very annoying. Lots of snips here for Keen.
Interesting. That was Gwen Keen.
Yeah.
But with a Afreeca Freecs jersey on, but actually it's being played by Dudu here in this game. As another Chovy sign. Same one from before. Still very good. And, yeah, I mean, but when you look at this comp, like, imagine the skirmishing from this. I mean, it feels like game number 1 again. It's not exactly the same, but it's like if they get ahead, good luck getting away from this and surviving the huge buckets of damage they have.
It also has decent team fighting in the late game, not, you know, as much scaling as, you know, we saw from Hanwha Esports last game, but it has a lot of CC, a lot of initiation, a lot of really great engage tools. Whereas this composition is a lot reliant on the poke that you're going to see from the Varus, and then Arthur coming in for some hard engages, and then Chovy scaling later on. So a lot of prio early game here, you know, in the top side of the map for Afreeca. And mid, a little bit more control to Chovy. But the bottom side, I think, is where the Varus pick really needs to have pretty heavy weight here for Hanwha Esports into the Ezreal. Otherwise, Ezreal will just outscale later on. It is so powerful in those skirmishes, like you mentioned. He took the cleanse just for extra safety, because you know that, you know, against the Ryze, against the Thresh here, and even the Varus, if you don't die, you're going to out-damage in those longer trades.
Yeah, I think especially Deft is going to have to step it up here. He's got a nice comp to work with, which should be lethality Varus, and, you know, with the double AP coming through and all that, with the tank in the jungle. And, you know, Deft is definitely one of these pieces of the Hanwha puzzle that people have been waiting to really come online, but still waiting, it feels like.
It's hard to be hypercritical of Deft when you consider how old of a player he is and how much of a veteran he is. And most players who reach, you know, a storied career like Deft has have either retired or fallen off very significantly, whereas Deft hasn't reached his old peak, and I think he's often chasing his own shadow in a lot of ways on a team where he's one of 2 incredibly high-profile players. So for me, when I watch Deft, I'm like, yeah, he's not at where he was before, but the fact that he's still almost there is impressive enough, but he hasn't been big enough to really push Hanwha Esports into that potential 4th world spot, right? Or Hanwha Esports making a finals here in the LCK with this new roster. The impact just hasn't been quite that big, as you say, even though we're very hyped and we're always very excited to see Deft play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he makes a good combo with Chovy as well. Chovy, you know, a younger up-and-comer, so they have kind of the experience as well as the new young talent coming through. As Dread, he's just this kind of player. He's going to bully you. I mean, look at him. He's running at Arthur. And he says, okay, we have prio in the lanes. This is my red buff. And you can do whatever you want in your side of the jungle, but I'm taking your red buff. That's for sure.
He also knows that Fly has a little bit of extra prio, so that's just going to be how this goes in this kind of early part of the game. So he just gets away with it for free. We also saw a little bit of aggressive trading from Keen on the top side of the map, too. They're trying to get any opportunity they can to have Dread get an early lead. My favorite champion that Dread played last season, actually, was when he played the Pantheon. And it was just a champion that, like, screamed early game control, right? And obviously that's been nerfed quite a bit and is no longer played, not only in the meta, but in jungle it's basically dead. But Dread is a type of player, if you give him a champion they can make a huge impact on, he will. Like last season, the early parts, you know, when we were in like week 2s and 3s, it was the Pantheon, the Talias, right? And now it's on the Rumble. A more passive jungle, but still. Okay, Arthur coming through now with the Hecarim.
Yeah, and this is with blue buff. He does not have red. He's going in there, trying to dive as the teleport will come out. Leo easily picks up the first blood. Arthur here extremely low. Keen with the flash. He is going for the kill, and he will easily pick it up here with that summoner advantage. Speaking of which, how about some more early game skirmishing in favor of Afreeca? They get another kill in the mid lane as well.
Well, where did you think Dread was? Oh boy, this is already looking like game 1. Keen's going to get upgraded boots super early on, which is very annoying to deal with as Gwen, because she's so reliant on closing the gap on this Kennen if she's ever going to take trades. He's already mobile as it is. He already has stun lockups as it is. And now he's just going to be even more frustrating to deal with here on the top side of the map. Set, you know, a champion that you have to really be careful about as Rise here in the mid lane. If you're trying to push that lane and you're trying to go, well, we lost something bottom side, let's see if I can actually get an advantage elsewhere. You're not going to be able to make that impact. And like you said, there's no red buff here for Arthur. You see the early ignite come through, and Vista gets easily cleaned up. Arthur takes an extra turret shot, and Keen flashes forward, and that's all there is to it. I mean, it's a really nice teleport. Has the ward there.
And this one is the question mark you were talking about before. Chovy aggressively trading and Fly. I mean, he sets it up perfectly. Chovy does not respond flash or anything. No respect shown to the top side of the river where he has no vision. Chovy gets caught out, and that's just adding salt into the wound at this point. I mean, you could have handled maybe an unfortunate dive, but you can't handle as well Chovy dying just 2v1 essentially for free.
Fly does not have the flash. We saw Dread just for a moment there use his own flash. I think he was hoping the Harpoon was actually going to allow a face breaker, and then he would get his Q off and then end up maybe securing a kill there. He was able to take Chovy's flash away though, so still successful at the end of the day. And that's a flash trade you will take when you have a set in the mid lane who absolutely is going to be able to have that follow-up CC you need when the jungle, you know, Rumble in this case doesn't have strong CC, you know, has the slow, obviously, but it just makes Chovy's life a lot more frustrating here in the mid side of the map. He can't actually push for advantages in Prio as safely.
Oh no. There's a level 6 Rumble right there where you were trying to escape to as the teleport will come in, but it's a little bit late. Let's see if Dudu can close the gap here. Might be able to pick up Leo, but Dread is immediately going to turn around and try to push him away, and it will work out at the end of the day as Leo will survive.
He does survive here. It was a close call, a little bit late on the teleport there, and this is the, you know, Varus doesn't have his Dirk yet, you know, but Keen's going to get a little bit of extra free push here. But Varus doesn't have his Dirk yet, so he's not as strong in this early part, but he is still going to be able to put out a lot of the damage, so I respect the choice, but the decision, like you said, comes a little bit slow. And now Keen's going to be able to push this massive wave into the turret. Dude's going to have to come up here and clean this up. Didn't have 6 in that exchange either. And, I mean, things are going from bad to worse once again in this game. Riftchild's up in a minute 30, and with all the extra gold going over to the Afreeca Freecs here, and the fact that their comp is already strong in skirmishes, looks like the gold lead is just going to get even bigger.
Yeah, I mean, basically 2,000 gold here, 6 minutes into the game. That's not really a lead that you can stomach. The one good thing that Hanwha Life do have going for them is the CS differences in the bottom lane and the mid lane. Even throughout the failed gank and all that, Deft has been able to get a nice little lead. And you can see here, they don't know where Dread is, and they're sending the Lantern over to certain death into a level 6 Rumble.
Yeah, you try to turn this around here, Deft comes through. He's only level 4, right? And he's got 2 long swords. Slow comes through from Dread, and Dudu just doesn't want to go into that brush. There's no vision there. He already used his skills, so he can't even close that gap anymore. Has to just put up his mist and walk away. Really frustrating. And once again, it's Chovy who's got a little bit of the CS lead in the mid, like you said, into a set. You know, it's the range matchup there. He's able to farm pretty freely, even though it cost him his life once and a flash on a second time. That's really all you can say about Hanwha Life in the early parts of this game, unfortunately. And we could talk about the strengths of their draft, like we did last game, later game, you know, some of the late game team fights they might be able to pull off. But the biggest worry is that Afreeca's comp at a 0-0 scoreline was already going to be scary for the first Riftchild fight, for the first 2 Drake fights, maybe even 3. At a 4-0 scoreline, I mean, you just can't get your red buff.
Yeah. Also, definitely less of a lead in terms of the scaling this time in the comps, as teleport will come out from Fly. Arthur, he's just trying to jungle. He's just trying to get a red buff, but he's not allowed.
Dudu, you can't be here.
Yeah, Dudu's getting way too aggressive now, as he is going to have the Slicing Maelstrom on top of him. They could go for a dive and probably easily pick up the kill, but they got him extremely low, and I think they'll just try to take the objective instead.
Yeah, if the stun proc's there, then he absolutely gets the kill, but either way, it's still a win. The group up here is a little bit awkward. Chovy has mid prio, but the bot prio is insane. But Afreeca don't actually have to push the issue on rushing this Herald out right now. Look at the control on the bottom side of the map that they have with the wards there. They know when Hanwha Life were going to try to rotate over to the Drake from mid if they were going to because of those wards. They know bot prio is there, so they don't actually have to push the issue right now. They could just sit back, chill, and get further ahead.
Yeah. Let's see if King can get away from this. He does have the rush and also flash, so they're going to get his flash away. Arthur does have to blow his ghost here. And sometimes you'd say, okay, it's great, you know, you get the flash away from the cannon, that's always good, but when you're behind, every single gank as a jungler even counts for more as you're trying to desperately keep up and catch up in the game. And when it doesn't really work out in the form of a kill, it always feels kind of bad.
Yeah. I mean, Afreeca just group up and take this objective for free right afterwards as Arthur's just trying to lick his wounds and pick up the pieces. And it's a very different game this time around in terms of the jungle because it's not ganks and full control over all lanes that Dread's been able to accomplish. He's been able to make 2 impactful plays, but he's stolen so much of the jungle away from Arthur because of the early lead he obtained. And it's not like he's running away with the game like we saw last game, but because he's stolen so much of Arthur's farm, he's reliant on these ganks that keep failing. And that means that he just falls further and further behind, loses more of his jungle camps, and the snowball continues. Very loud cannon there for just a second.
Yeah. He'll be here all game. This itemization's so annoying for the Gwen. The early Oblivion Orb on top of those speedy boots, as you mentioned, is just going to... He can always keep the gap away from the Gwen and always deny some of that sustain that the Gwen does have in her kit.
Look at those little legs run.
Yeah, he's just having so much fun in this lane. Like, there's not really much that Dudu can do. Even though he has tried multiple times to put on the pressure, including at level 1. You know, Dudu was trying to put on a little bit of clinic like Keen did in game 1, but not quite able to do it to the same effect.
It's such a smart pick for Afreeca Freecs because it's great against the Gwen, which, you know, we talked about it in the draft, like one of the best blind picks I guess you could get against Keen, but it's obviously still going to be bad to blind when he can counterpick you into a cannon. It's great for team fights too.
Yeah.
Like, such a smart move. No one's done it yet here in the LCK, but I've been waiting for this because I think it's such a smart counter pick.
And that's another scary thing about Keen is if he needed it anymore. He has a champion Ocean, but he rarely dips into it, you know? We know that he can play so many different champions, but he doesn't necessarily feel the need to. He prioritizes certain ones that he's best at and that he just thinks are the strongest right now, but then all of a sudden he'll come out and be like, yeah, of course I'm going to dunk on your top laner with Kennen that I haven't played in however so many games, and there's not really much that you can do about it. Just makes him even more scary.
Yeah. In terms of win conditions here for Hanwha Life, who are still hanging on to this game, well, maybe not.
They're trying to burst him down here, but the Lantern is there. No equalizer to be used, as Def did have his flash. And I suppose Dread, without Leo there, wasn't going to push the issue too much.
It's actually pretty calmly handled by Hanwha Life. No flashes burned. They knew the Lantern was going to be there, and even with the equalizer, it felt safe. Didn't actually have to flash there, so that's actually very well handled because otherwise, Afreeca I don't think are looking for the kill there per se, but grabbing flashes would have been amazing right before an objective fight. So you will have Chovy continue to push this lane.
All right, Keen should know something's up here with Dudu's positioning. They're going to clear the wave. There's no teleport on their team except on Keen. As now 2-on-1, the Slicing Maelstrom does come out, but the damage is not there. Chovy also coming up, not able to actually get an assist, but they will finally take the kill onto Keen.
And they have bought Prio here, and, you know, Dread knows he's not going to be able to go up there and stop this from happening. So even though they end up getting that kill and actually give a lot of extra gold up here to Dudu on these plates, they get the objective. So that's what you could trade back. But this is massive for Hanwha Life. And what I was going to say before we had that collapse on the bottom side is, talk about win conditions for them. Chovy is, you know, 25 CS up, as you expect. Good matchup into the set, especially as he starts to get online here and get fed. The set's always going to be the one catching the waves and trying to play a little bit more passive. That gives him more agency on the map.
Uh-oh, Lahan's getting caught out big time here. He does not have flash. And even Chovy comes over and scoops up the kill. Maybe this is the way Hanwha Life make their way back in the game. They're closing the gap, getting kills on the map. Not necessarily getting big objectives, but you know, they're keeping that gold lead not too far away. As the equalizer does come out, Chovy will have the phase rush and the flash, so he will get out once again.
And Chovy gets out of here totally fine. He does have to flash, as you said, which is kind of annoying, but I think Chovy is really going to be the win condition in this game. Dudu has gotten a kill here, and, you know, eventually is going to build into that Rift Maker, but We'll see what he ends up building for his second item here. I don't think the split push is going to be very strong, so I don't think the Gnasher's Tooth is what he's going to go for here. In these extended fights, I think he'd rather have the Zhonya's so he can actually get in, do some burst, have some survivability, but we'll see. But Chovy has already shown that he's going to do great in this lane. He's going to have the right, rotations. He's going to be able to make an impact to some of these skirmishes, and later on he becomes so much more deadly and so much more frustrating to deal with. Now the Prowler's Claw's up. This is a world where Hanwha Life can start to take some of these 2v2 fights, some of these 3v3 fights, especially when they have vision advantage.
Look at how well Keen is beating this out here. No flash, of course, on Dudu. Not even the ghost, and he is just gone. As Keen was just pulling him down the lane like he's pulling the strings like a puppet master. Able to put him in position for the death.
Yeah, that was really well played. Gets inside of the mist, so he could still hit that stun. The slicing mails from there. And Dread, plays along with the game. They're able to make another pick happen up here on the top side, and Keen will get, well...
I don't know about this, Arthur. He's going to go for it. The flash comes out, and it looks like the fear did land, but at the end of the day, just going to get the flash, and that's about it, as Keen is still going for that first turret.
Yep, he's going to get it, too. Or you're going to see Arthur kind of hover around here, which gives more control to Dread in the jungle. It's on the bottom side of it right now. We're going to take a look at this one more time here on the bottom side. So Vista actually has a ward tossed down here for just one moment. It's blocked, but he gets vision for just a second. Knows the perfect timing to get the Death Sense over the wall. That was a really aggressive and proactive play, but they knew where Lehens was, so I really, really appreciate it. And once again, we're going to watch this. Look at Keen. He just closes the distance before the mist goes down because he baits it so well that the mist doesn't actually block the Maelstrom coming through or the stun. Very well played here. Still hasn't gotten that top turret, but he will eventually, once again, if Arthur goes up there again, there's a big trade-off.
Yeah, turns out Keen is inevitable, and that turret will go down if he so decides that it will. But yeah, I mean, this is another big game where Afreeca get a big lead in the early game, but it doesn't feel as dominant as game number one. So we'll see if they can try to put on a little bit more pressure here, as Keen does get that aforementioned turret.
Yeah. First brick, pretty pivotal here in this game for Afreeca, who want to continue to snowball this lead. 10 seconds, or minute 10 seconds, excuse me, for this Infernal Drake to come up. And Hanwha Life, they have some of the big early spikes hit, right? Deft has Prowler's Claw. Dudu has his Riftmaker. This is an objective they can fight for, especially when they have this much control over the bottom. If they get these picks, this is actually a perfect time to come down.
Okay, they're going to get Leo, but Cleanse comes in, and that will be denied. We also had Chovy leaning bottom side.
Yeah.
After all, it felt like Afreeca knew that was coming, and the Rift Herald will go the way of Dread. Meanwhile.
So Dread grabs that, and can Hanwha Life group up to take this Drake? They have vision control right now. You could see Set push Chovy back, so Fly does force Chovy away a little bit here. And Afreeca absolutely do have a great skirmish comp. They want to fight for this.
Okay, they're going to try to get on in here. That equalizer is just so insane. It was perfectly placed, but here's the turn as Dudu's in. Trying to get that damage down on a Fly, but he's a Set. Remember, those Sets in the LCK, they never die. And it seems like, Kima's coming down, but Afreeca couldn't find a way to turn that once again on his arrival.
Hanwha Life Esports aren't confident to come in here and try to take this because if this snowballs further against them, it's bad. Oh, once again!
How many times is this going to happen?
Well, if you get that pick, you certainly come in. I was going to say Afreeca are just too low. They can't stick around here, but a pick is all it takes. And now, Hanwha Life get this Drake. This is a pretty massive road back into the game for them. And once again, Vista with just a great Death Sentence over the wall. Death Sentence living up to its name. You get caught by that, it's over, especially when there's nobody to peel, nobody to come in. As we're going to watch this from kind of start to finish here. Deft is already super low, and this fight has to use heal, but the long-range Lantern is perfect from Vista, so he gets out. Then he turns here, grabs Dread, and then you see the push away, and everyone on Afreeca is super low. But it's not the last Death Sentence we're going to see in this fight, right? Because Vista, once again, comes over the wall here, sets up when Dread's like, okay, well, maybe I'll just stick around here because he wants to see if they're actually going to collapse on the Drake because Afreeca want to back away.
He was starting the Drake.
Yeah, I think that was an accident. I don't think he actually intended to do that. That would have been absurd because the rest of Afreeca's backing away. I think he wanted to see, do Hanwha Life actually come in here and try to take this, or maybe we need to stay here because everyone was backing at that moment. But he gets punished.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he just thought they all backed or something because definitely pretty aggressive with the idea there. As slowly but surely, Hanwha Life are making this an interesting game, and I think Afreeca's lack of ability to close out some of their leads is also coming in here. As you see, Chovy is the highest level in the game.
Yeah.
And he has the most gold in the game. Where have we seen this before?
I mean, we've seen so many symptoms of this problem for Afreeca. Oh no, Lehens.
This is, I mean, this can't keep happening. Like,
yeah, this is throw-worthy.
It's just a lack of respect of the Thresh pick. Like, you don't have vision there. You can't just run straight at the Thresh.
Yeah, and Vista is such a great Thresh player. He has, every time you try to cross a line, he's going to be there to punish. His Lanterns have been at max range every time whenever his team is trying to be greedy.
Yeah, and he's had 3 death sentences gifted to him.
Yeah,
like,
everybody's grouped up on the top side of the map for Afreeca, and Chovy is just getting free gold on the bottom side of the map. Nobody is here. Like, nobody's even considering to be here. Nobody's even remotely close. Keen had teleport, but you're not going to teleport to deal with a Rise. He'll just simply get out of there, no problem. So look at where Rise is on the map. All of this is happening too. So you see Lehens get hooked, and Afreeca actually show themselves shooting over the wall here. And like Chovy's like, well, if they're all grouped up top, they're very far away from me. He gets down and gets a whole turret after that exchange. So Afreeca are no longer even in a significant gold lead in this game anymore.
Yeah. And especially when you consider that even one Infernal Drake and the amount of scaling it gives to your Gwen, to your Ryze, your Varus. I mean, Hanwha Life might even be ahead in this game at this point in time. Doesn't quite show it on the gold numbers, as you mentioned. Now, Afreeca, you know, with their lack of proactivity in the mid game, they're going to try to make something happen here and take down the mid turret.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of siege power here with this Ezreal. Leo will help take that out there. But unfortunately for them, this mid turret, even though it's valuable, isn't going to be, this is not going to be a Rift Herald that leads to prio that gives you a Drake, right? It's not going to be like, okay, well now we've got this control, we get set up for the team fight here, or even, giving them enough agency to collapse onto Chovy because the wraparound here is very quick from Hanwha Life Esports. Saw Lehens playing with fire there, trying to clear some vision, and, he doesn't actually get enough secured to make them feel like they can punish Chovy, so once again, you even see Arthur come down as a little bit of a bodyguard just in case you were going to see Keen, who's missing right now on the map, come over. But Chovy's left to his own devices, and it's a slow rotation top. So this 1-3-1 for Hanwha Life, which we saw them kind of get online a little bit last game, but they were so far behind they really couldn't utilize it. In this game, it's really deadly.
Yeah, it's really rough to deal with. And you mentioned how Chovy's kind of going to be the key player for this lineup. I mean, considering what he's going into as the Rise, he's going to have a pretty fun time. You're looking at mostly short range, guys that are going to run straight at you. You can just root someone and blow them up, especially if you get that Rise to 3-4 items. It's going to be difficult for Afreeca to find big picks unless you totally catch Chovy out of position.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be super easy, especially with the Thresh in position there.
And Rise is so good into set, too, when you're desperately trying to use set for initiation. And Fly's role in this game was a lot of skirmish control, but after those first few fights, he hasn't been able to do much. So you're very much limited as to how you take some of these fights as Afreeca without massive vision control. So they are grouped up. And I actually really like this move because you group up, you force Vista and Deft away, and you can even grab a turret here potentially.
Yeah, Afreeca are saying, okay, you can split push, but we'll
group
take the mid. Yeah, we can take the mid tier. They didn't get it, though. Kind of unfortunate. Look at this. Chovy's on the turret. I think he's easily going to get this. There is a Mountain Drake available, but double TP available for Dudu and Chovy if they did want to collapse, which at this point it looks like they won't. They'll just give away the one Mountain Drake for now.
And you're able to see 4 players on the map here for Hanwha Life. I think they were able to confirm at least 4 on this Drake. So Chovy gets to push the entirety of that additional turret in the top side of the map down without any fear of repercussions. So sure, you give up a Drake, but you're in a very good spot on the map as Hanwha Life Esports. That turret being down means a lot more vision, a lot more potential to collapse and grab that inhibitor later. So it's a pretty good trade because as Hanwha Life really start to scale up, I mean, like you said, I think they are ahead. I think they were ahead when you said like they might be ahead even though the goal didn't show it. I think they're very ahead now. And they don't need to fight at this moment because their comp becomes so much stronger later on anyways that, yeah, you can give up one Drake. It's not the sole point. So just take more control of the map instead.
Deft even getting confident to just stand up to them, knowing he has Vista nearby. Vista has been having a great game, as you mentioned. His positioning is really the biggest thing for me. And yeah, I mean, Deft also very much online, 2-0-1, 250 CS here, 24 minutes. It's not just the 300 CS Rise hack, you know, at 24 minutes here from Chovy, which is very common. Lots of pieces online. I think the one thing that's a little bit lacking is maybe the Gwen that's fallen pretty far behind on the farm, but she has a stopwatch, so it's okay.
And look at what happens when, so Afreeca are at their strongest when they're grouped like this, right? Because that's where they're going to be able to push down turrets, that's where they're going to be able to maybe find objectives, and it's going to force Hanwha to play a little bit less around the 1-3-1. Like, they will have to respond to this. But when we have these kind of stalemates that happen in the middle of the map, Chovy gets half another turret, gets a ton of extra waves. So you have to consider what the cost is, the opportunity cost here really is, Afreeca, when you group up like this, but you don't get anything. If you can't force a pick, if you can't grab a turret, they did secure finally that mid turret. But if you can't get more than that and Chovy gets a turret elsewhere on the map, you haven't really gained anything, and the game goes longer and longer and longer. That game clock gets higher and higher, and Chovy's items start to come online. He's got his Zhonya's now, just bought outright. And the guy is going to start to get a lot more assists in these fights too, and we'll start to stack up that seal, maybe buy him a Jais later.
Yeah. I think as this game comes along and the Rise and the Varus and even the Gwen kind of get out of control, you're going to see Afreeca really just need to get big flanks off, I think, with Keen, because otherwise, you know, you have potential for just straight up engage with the hands, but there's also a chance that he just evaporates, right, with how much damage there is on the side of Hanwha. As speaking of which, they're just going to try to evaporate the Baron here. And here we go again. Lahens this time will flash away. Nice engage from Fly on the other side. And the equalizer is massive. Afreeca, they find the angle. Chovy was nowhere to be found as the rest of Hanwha were just getting in onto that objective very confidently. And Afreeca saying, no, you will not. We will take the Baron instead.
It's almost like everything we just said and everything that Hanwha is strong at, being on the side lanes, pushing, not dealing with the grouped up Afreeca, was just completely disregarded by Hanwha. Like, why don't we actually fight Afreeca at the strongest right before we are fully online? And not only that, why not try to set up, I mean, goodbye, get us ult over the wall here, but like, why not even try to put the cherry on top, put Vista in the pixel brush and have him set up for a death sentence, and then we'll turn off of a Baron, like, instantly. I mean, that is just begging to get absolutely slapped in a skirmish like this. Like, look at where Vista is standing. Chovy's on the edge here. Like, Hanwha are like, oh, we'll go in. And Fly's like, no. Yeah. The equalizer is perfect. There's such great synergy here, and Fly hits a great facebreaker follow-up. There's so much CC with this comp that if Chovy's not in there, hitting those roots early, and your Thresh is already dead because he's the one starting the fight when the Baron's only halfway done, like, you went so greedy there.
Yeah.
I think it's the only thing you can't do is Hanwha.
We're not in a position now where, well, let's take a look at this. If Chovy is still in this brush. Yes, they are going to collapse on a Fly here. And I don't know if there's any escape for him, actually. He does not have his flash. He gets over the wall, and he is the set. He's actually looking to turn this around. Does a nice amount of the damage, and now his team is following up. Lahen's going to miss the knockup. Now Hanwha looking to turn as in comes Vista. And they actually have a way to turn it back here. Leo gets the 1 kill, but now 3v1. It doesn't look like he'll have a chance to get out. Even blows his cleanse. And Hanwha finds another pick somehow, some way.
Set is so great at being in a side lane like this and actually pushing the envelope because he does so much damage with his Haymaker in these exchanges. And if you are able to collapse in, sometimes you can turn it. But you really are starting to see the power. Okay, Keen.
What?
You wanted that turret real bad.
Where did the Gwen go? What was that?
I mean, Zhonya's was only going to delay the inevitable in this exchange, I'm afraid, and I don't think he could have even done it.
I hope you get the slow-mo of that kill. That was pretty quick.
It might have to be on real slow-mo. We might be looking at like 1/8 speed. But you are starting to see the really strong late-game scaling of this Hanwha comp, and that skirmish, even when Set almost turned it around, they're like, no, we have the damage, doesn't matter. Void Staff's up for Chovy now, 8 stacks of Dark Seal. He dies, right, in this overextension, but watch this fight once again. This is one of the like 17,000 reasons why Set is so extremely valuable in this meta, because he can side lane. Haymaker not only does a ton of damage, but buys time. Equalizer comes through here. But Chovy dodges the stun.
The teleport was denied. I think if Kennen gets in here and gets the flank, Afreeca win this fight. But
yeah.
Because the teleport was denied in the mid lane, I believe. As we're going to see it here.
Yeah. Just shut down, uses the ult here.
Just runs up to him. Really easy. Keen actually has to run away.
But that's, I mean, we're not seeing Varus hit all those all too often in the LCK, but this is one of those moments where you can certainly pull it off. And Chovy, once again.
This is what you do.
Yeah.
This is how Hanwha Life win, okay?
Yep.
This is what we wanted.
Yeah, don't group on a Baron, please, and look for Vista in the Pixel Brush. Just actually side lane. Then you can group up now.
Yeah, I mean, Chovy's trying to double Flame Horizon fly right now. Nobody really can stand up to him except maybe Keen.
Look at the gold lead, 4,500. He's the only one who has it, and it's massive.
Chovy's hitting that spike as well, where if somebody runs into him, he's just going to do one combo, and the guy's probably going to die. Who's it going to be? Who's face checking?
Well, Fly, I think, will probably survive for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Fly is probably the one guy
that
can survive. As now, teleport will be used, and each teleport that Hanwha Life uses is so valuable.
Yeah.
Because it takes away so much of their split pushing power if they do not have teleport.
Exactly.
And the fact that he uses it there to try to 5v5 fight, again, it's one of those things that we really did not want to see. As 5v5 coming in here now, Fly is looking for the flank teleport. They're not going to find it.
There's no objective. Hanwha Life are just grouping up here to lose trades here and lose these skirmishes while using a lot of tools, whereas Afreeca are very happy to watch Hanwha Life back off, waste those teleports like you said. They now have control over mid, they can push this through, and the side lanes are where, for the first time, Chovy is going to be a little bit more vulnerable because you know Hanwha Life are actually backing here, and even he can't push even further. He clears that last wave, he's going to get away, and I think if Afreeca actually rotate down a little bit faster, he doesn't get away with this, but he will get away. Afreeca going to clear a lot of vision, but there's no objective up right now for the next 80 seconds, no Baron, and 2 minutes until that next Mountain Drake is going to come up right now. So we're going to have a pretty significant lull state, but, you know, very much important to note, like you said, that for the first time in a while, Hanwha Life are not going to sit in the lull state and actually grab a huge amount of gold. But Chovy's already gotten his 3 big power items, you know, his Void Sap is his 4th, but got Zhonya's early on. He's in a very good spot, grabs his stopwatch too. And he is going to be so deadly in these fights.
Yeah. The thing is that they need to fight on their terms, right, with split pushing and using that power. We saw what happens if Chovy is out of the fight for even a second.
Yeah.
The insane amount of engage that Afreeca have, and they have a huge amount of damage as well. You know, we've been talking about a lot of the scaling on the side of Hanwha Life, but you consider, you know, Rumble, Kennen, and an Ezreal at this point in time. You find an enemy target, really any of them, and you can blow them up instantly. It really just depends on a good engage. And if they can get that without Chovy in the fight, they're almost definitely going to win.
And that's why all this fighting is happening right now around Vision. This Fly is ready for the engage. Dudu on the flank here, spotted.
He knows his job. And it looks like Hanwha Life, they're just going to rotate over here to this top lane.
Time to be decisive, Afreeca. If you can't cut these 2 players off,
yeah,
what can you do? I mean, Chovy has Realm Warp.
Make the decision, make the engage. It's what you got to do, but Chovy is incredibly scary right now, but the miss on the Dredge line, or rather on the Death Sentence, here we go, trying to get in, and there is that engage, but double Zhonya's comes in, and it denies so much damage, but here comes the Hex, gets a 3-man knock him in the backline, but it just does not matter, as still Chovy is alive, still Dudu is alive, will he get in that backline? No, Set is doing so much damage, as now Leo has him as a frontline. Chovy, though, is still alive, and this is what we wanted out of this later game. Fly looking for the engage on a Deft, who does not have a lot of mobility. That's the harpoon landed.
Better late than never here, Afreeca, to look for this engage.
Ooh, he gets it! Leo takes him out, and that's 50 seconds on the death timer.
That's massive here. Chovy looks like he will be able to narrowly escape as they do scan here, looking to clear some vision. I mean, it's actually scary to try to really even chase Chovy when he's in the bush because he can explode you.
Of the Baron. Take an objective.
Yeah,
there you
Fly's
go.
Coming over. They are going to be able to start this here. Okay, it's teleporting over here. I was like, I don't think you could stop that. I thought he was teleporting to the Baron. But this is finally Afreeca making the call, and it was on Lehens who actually made the really big play to trap everybody from behind so that Fly could actually do that damage. Now Chovy is going to come over here, and we'll trade the Mountain Drake. But this is going to be a lot of power on the map here for Afreeca, and it's really going to limit the amount of split pushing, once again, that Hanwha Esports can do 1-3-1 versus Baron buff minions. As look at where Lehens is on the minimap right now. He's so incredibly far away. And when Fly first comes in here and you see the Zhonya's coming down for Keen, it feels like, oh, this might just not be enough. They turn until Lehens shows up. You're like, oh, no, this is in fact a 5v5 fight. So well played by Lehens. Even stopwatches here. And look at what Set can do.
Look at Fly.
You have Haymaker is actually so broken.
I mean, that was a sick engage. I mean, the timing on that was so crazy.
I mean, he had the fight, he had the start of the fight, and he had the end of the fight. Like, both parts of it. Gets away, goes back to the fountain, and then the perfect Q here from Leo.
And set up by Dread as well to land the
So
double
beautiful.
harpoon. That's a great fight. That's what you want to see.
That's the kind of late game fighting from Afreeca, and the amount of decisiveness we haven't been seeing from them.
Even Fly knows. He's like, I don't know if I can do this. Dread is around too. Are they still here? We do not know. Looks like no.
No.
They're in the river and have backed away.
That's what sets the challenger players from the pro gamers is actually having the game sense to be like,
Yeah.
not gonna walk into that one.
But Fly learned from the last time.
That could have been a game losing mistake actually for Afreeca if they walk in there.
Or at least it takes all the power from the Baron push away.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, I mean, at this point in the game, 35 minutes in, you die, it's like 60-second death timer. Now, Chovy is just doing the split pushing thing. This is what we wanted to see, but up against the Baron push, he will have to come back eventually.
Yeah, no teleport, so he has to slow back to return. And I don't think he didn't buy a return ticket. He's like, okay, well, you guys are going to have to defend those Nexus turrets if they go in, because I'm trading this for an inhibitor. That's the plan. Keen actually will come back and respond here. Okay. Doesn't get the inhibitor, which is critical. Nice timing on the back. Chovy's still around the area. And you can see Vista coming over here, but there's no objective to fight over. There's nothing to rotate over for here. So the only way they catch somebody is if Afreeca are careless, which they've already shown us they are not going to be. He's going to back out. This is a typical game for Afreeca, right, in terms of early game control, but then start to fall apart towards the mid game, and then late game comes out for Hanwha. But I feel like the caveat here is that Afreeca have actually been a little bit more decisive than we see them on average, which gives me a little bit of hope that even though we are at an extremely late game Chovy here.
Take a picture of the total gold at the bottom. It's like, I saw some tweets after game one about, getting Chovy a team and stuff like this. Well, there's another picture for that folder, I suppose.
Yeah. But, Afreeca have been punishing. They have been a little bit decisive in these skirmishes, so there's a little bit of hope that they will close out a game, whereas in the past they were unable to do so. Just going to have to see that decisiveness continue here. Taking away the vision makes it so much more difficult for Hanwha Life to actually, roam around to defend these pushes.
I think it really helps that their comp is kind of like, okay, we press the go buttons and we get
go
in there.
Yeah.
It's not too difficult to play. It's not the easiest version of this either, but it's still pretty straightforward.
And it puts a lot more pressure on Fly to actually have these carry performances, whereas, sometimes for him it's just as simple as, okay, I pressed R as Orianna, and I'm going to press Q, and, that's all I do in these fights.
Yeah.
He actually has to really step up, and so
he
far
did.
he has, right? Yeah, that's what's exciting about this to me is, even though it's still on the second champion we know he's found great success on this season, the consistency is there. So you're no longer okay, well, we better play Orianna or Control Mage.
Okay, they're just going to go for this one, and he ran straight into it, but they still have so much damage. Down goes the Hecarim, and here's the flank coming in from Keen. Even the exhaust can't save him, and down goes Chovy, and just like that, Hanwha Life throw any chance that they had of winning this game away.
So careless, such an aggressive realm where they're into a set, and you don't know where Keen is. He comes in, and yeah, you have the damage, so you feel like, okay, it's going to be okay. We burst him down, doesn't matter. Through that face breaker, we're actually going to pull this off, but no, Keen is fed. He's got a Void Staff. He comes on the flank, and that's it.
Is desperately trying to clear these minions. They don't have Fly, so they don't have a lot of tankiness, and you can see Deft is trying to push them away. but the damage it looks like is there. Depth is just way too low, and down will go the Nexus. Nice try on that last piercing arrow. They're gonna wait and try to get Depth first, and they will take him down. That's gonna be the 2-0 for Afreeca Freecs. It got a little bit spicy.